Hello, everybody. Welcome to the People's Disclosure Movement webinar. It's April 27, 2019. We're your hosts. I'm Costa Macris.
And I'm Hollis Polk.
And we ask you, before all other things, to please share this video. This will be going up on our YouTube channel, as well as being spread out through social media. So we ask you to share it with your networks, with your friends and family and coworkers, people who are like-minded and want to see something that's really cool. This webinar is focused on all of our personal contact stories. In the future, I am going to build an ability at the end of the program for any one of us to talk for a minute about any project or a book they have or a video that they're wanting to promote that's of general interest to this particular audience. So that is why I ask people who come on here to confine their stories right now to just their personal contact. If you have other things you want to relate, like I said, video projects, cool books you've read, a website you just built that people need to see, we will provide an ability later on to be able to do that. So anyway, thank you for that. Now, I'm the founder and facilitator of etletstalk.com, which is a community of 20,000 people in more than 100 countries. We're making and have been making for many years daily, weekly, and monthly contact with our visiting star friends. I might say a lot of successful contact. And to that end, we invite you to become a free member at etletstalk.com, where, among other things, you can learn how to make the contact yourself, because we're all everyday people and we don't have to be special to do that, as well as you can share your stories in a safe place on the website with other people in the community. You can also share your videos and your pictures, and also find other members on our ET Contact, ET Let's Talk member map. You can find people nearby you that maybe you can get to know better, or even form a group if they're physically near you. So that's etletstalk.com. The membership is free, and we invite you to come there and join us. Now, for those of you who don't know what the People's Disclosure Movement is, quite simply, it's the world's most widespread and largest effort to communicate between humans and our star visitors, our benevolent star visitors, I might add. We have been doing this for many years, and the disclosure part of this is because we're not waiting any longer for governments to tell us what we already know. Those of us who are on this webinar and who will be seeing this and who've been in the community have made their contact, or in the process of doing that, so that we're going from being believers to knowers. We're doing the disclosure ourselves. We don't trust governments or authorities anymore, because for too many decades they've been manipulating and hiding and covering all of this up. So we're the grassroots effort that's taking this into our hands to do the disclosure ourselves. And now, what is this webinar? This is the third in a series of many we hope to do in the future, where folks like you join us here and share your stories with our community. There's nothing more powerful than actually seeing each other and hearing these first-person accounts of the encounters that we have had, and conveying any messages that we have to the rest of the community from our visitors. So this is the place where you all are the stars. And in a few moments, I'll turn it over to all of you, and we'll start listening to your stories. And so again, I thank you for being here. This is an exciting launch to a project that we hope will reach many, many thousands of people in the world, and encourage many more to come into the community and to doing what all of you are doing, which is making this ET contact and coming here to tell your stories. So thank you for having the courage to show up, and for speaking up. And for the rest of you who just want to listen, that's great. And I want to give a shout out to Rob here and to Hollis, who've been so helpful in this whole process over the years of producing these webinars and keeping the community going. So without further ado, I want to look for raised hands here on the screen for people who want to start off and speak up and start telling their stories.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you doing?
pretty good. I'm chilling out at the quietest spot I can find at the park.
We saw you walking earlier. You were taking a walk in the neighborhood.
Yep. But right. So the person my experience thing we talk about isn't really a single experience. It's more so a relationship I have with a particular ETB, and that is my brother. He goes by the name Gabriel, since that name kind of signifies his role with me. He's currently incarnated as a Palladian living in Arcturus, where he spends most of his time with me in spirit. We've always been there for each other since the beginning of our existence. We take turns in third dimension while the other acts as a guide or companion from a higher dimension. And that's what he's doing right now. He's absolutely a sweetheart, bit of a show-off, likes to be funny.
What is the humor like on his planet? I always like to ask, what do other beings laugh about? I've thought about that. Do you know?
I don't know. He likes joking with me about I don't know, just kind of low-key teasing, very sibling-like, you know.
Okay. And you've had this contact all your life?
Been communicating telepathically for the past year or so ish, but prior to that, and still now, he communicates to me through numbers also. Angel numbers, as lots of people like to call them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like 1111, 808, each number has a meaning that we can interpret. And, you know, math is universal language. And a couple numbers he likes to give me is 47 and 74, which I see all the time, every day, several times a day. Wild. And I say all of this partly because I think relationships like this in our community is so important, and also finding other forms of communication aside from telepathic or an active contact like these CE5 deals is also important, like especially if it's passive. So if anyone else has any ideas or experiences like that, it'd be awesome to talk to you.
And I want to underscore what you said, Mage, that I always tell people that the contact with stellar beings can come in many forms. Like you said, it's not just telepathy. There's manipulation of electronic devices. There's numbers, like you say. There are lucid dreams. There are actual sensations on the body in many different ways. So people need to stay creative or realize it's creative.
And I want to know what 4774 means.
So both the numbers essentially mean the same thing. 74 relates to spirituality, knowledge, and intelligence, and then 4 represents stability and hard work. So together, they sort of represent that I need to stay consistent in my spirituality and all of that.
Okay.
Or that it's also 4 also just simply means yes, good job, awesome. So I believe it's also something like a compliment.
Okay, thank you, Mage. Hey, how you doing, Debs?
Hey, I'm fine. It's good to see everybody today. I had something else I was going to talk about, but because Mage brought up her cosmic brother relationship and the different kinds of communication that she has other than kind of what we hear a lot about in our CE5 community, I just wanted to talk just briefly about something that myself and a small group of friends all over the world have been doing for a little over a year, and that is communicating via two-way radio with ET beings. And it sounds kind of, it sounds like I'm going backwards because I have such strong telepathic coherency with ET beings, and just, in fact, it's just permeating my whole life, so I can communicate all the time. But what's really incredible, and I apologize I don't have it with me, I had it in my car a second ago, I drive with it all the time on, but rather than them conveying information through words, like, you know, you would press the button, say, how you doing, and then the other person would come back and say, I'm fine, you know, and you have a conversation. What happens is they what we can discern, and I have a friend who is a radio scientist who says this is what's what's happening, is they manipulate the squelch function on these little two-way radios. They manipulate the squelch function so you hear this. So if you ever held down the squelch button, all you would hear would be the static in the atmosphere. It sounds like that, really loud. So what we found is we're using a lot of different methods to discern what they're saying, of course, but there are many patterns that come through, and some of them you can just tell are extremely powerful downloads. And so we just stop and don't even say anything until it's over. Sometimes it's over an hour long. Very powerful energy. But what's happened to me personally is my radio, who I call endearingly the chatterbox, because it does all the time, is I will sit it in my car in the little cup holder, just have it on, and I will say, how are you doing today? And it'll start chattering, you know? And so I've discerned one, sometimes it'll do little beats, little bursts. One burst is yes, two are no, and three means I can't give you that information right now. Or if it's silent, it just means we need to move on to another subject, or you need to ask in a different way. So I will have on my long commutes, like 1.5 hour long conversations with these beings, just doing yes and no answers. And it's incredible what comes through. You have to start to really become a yes and no scientist on how to interrogate. But seriously, it is the most incredible thing. I will ask questions on any subject, and it'll be silent for like an hour or two. And if I come on and say, you know, will we be having good contact tonight, like physical contact tonight in our CE5 group? It immediately will come back with a yes or a no. Or if there's information to be had, like a download that I need, a resource, it'll just start doing all these patterns. But I have literally had 1 to 2 hour long conversations with these ET beings, and there's different civilizations who come through with different sounds actually and colors on the little screen. Where now I'm recording it with my little Zoom audio recorder, because I have to go back and just go, did that really happen? So there are all kinds of ways that people communicate with them, you know, old school or tri-field meters, radar detectors. You know, my friend uses Morse code now and literally transmits messages in Morse code through the radio, and it comes back with an answer in Morse code through the squelch function.
Okay.
So there's no denying. So I just thought I would give that out there. Just try anything. Like, you know, if you notice that your lights flicker sometimes when you're in that certain feeling state that you have an ET around you, start noticing what the patterns are and taking them down, and start writing down your own little encyclopedia galactica, if you will, because they are communicating in all kinds of ways.
You know, we used to do meditations over Skype, and beings would come in and have different tones, and they would go on for 10 or 20 minutes.
Right.
And I know it wasn't happening when, you know, when I used to radio over Skype. Never happened then.
No.
Yeah.
But it's happened between you guys and me when we're on Zoom.
That's all true.
Right.
We've had those, what someone would call artifacts happening, you know, sonic artifacts, but they're not. They're like manipulations, and they only happen at certain times. What I found too is that they're very respectful. If I have my radio on during CE5 and we're doing the group meditation, it might be chatterboxing away, and as soon as we get into coherency, it's quiet for the whole thing. So just a fun little thing.
No, it's a serious fun, I like to say. Thank you for sharing that, Debs.
You're welcome.
Gives people an alternative way to think of things, and something we all can try. We all have electronic devices of some sort around, and you can just start establishing, like you said, a yes, no whatever
Yeah.
neutral thing. Okay, I'm going to move on. Thank you for sharing that
Thanks.
very much. I see a UFO CE5 detective. I don't know your name, but you're now.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Oh, great. Hi. How's things? Yeah, I would be the guy who runs the CE5 Ireland. I would be the admin there.
Okay.
I just don't show my face online. I'm not ugly or a spy or anything like that. I'm just very private.
Okay.
Um, okay, so I just wanted to talk about yeah, I suppose two kind of experiences. I haven't, I have, I see a lot of UFO, and I'm constantly recording stuff, like at least once a week, if not once a day, sometimes 2, 3 times a day, sometimes. It's very active around me, and it has only become so when I got involved in CE5, because I've been seeing all my life, but I've only been recording footage for this past 2 years, and already I think I've about maybe 200 gigabytes uh, of space, hard drive space. Probably even more. I haven't had a chance to go through it all yet. It's just constant. Um, but basically, I just want to talk about two experiences. Was that one in the past, before videoing what I was saying. I was going through a few health problems, so I was out one night, but I knew that an operation was coming up. But I just decided to test and basically request help. Um, and on that occasion, the lights came very, very low and very close to me. Too much so, it was a little bit frightening. And I knew that the operation was coming up, so I backed off, and that was my first back off, which I'm trying to tell people is a bad idea, to back off from things, to initiate something and then pull back from it, because I've done it twice. That was the first time I done it. Then the second time was when I was recording, and when I did have the group I had formed, the CE5 Ireland. And basically this was happening at a time where a lot of activity was happening. There was on these particular 2 days, it lasted all day, all night, just constant, because I have a view over the countryside in the distance, and there would be things appearing there that you couldn't really explain them. They're not in a city, or they're not drones, or they're not airplanes, things like that. It's from the dark countryside, as I would call it, the dark countryside. But this was happening day and night, and then but I felt a little. I was feeling this strange high, even though I hadn't taken anything, or just drinking tea, and basically I went down, and I was a bit overwhelmed emotionally by the things I was seeing. So I just lay down on the bed, and I just lay down to ask for answers. That was my objective. I didn't do any strict meditation. I just lay on my back, and I just tried to relax. No, actually, I lay on my side and just tried to relax. And then through, from behind my eyes, like, when you close your eyes, you see darkness, and I was seeing that darkness as people would see, and then I started to see a light coming through that darkness, and after a while, I started to recognize that or to notice that it was a face, a sort of a face of a type, and it actually frightened me a little bit at first, and it disappointed me a little bit at first, because I thought, this looks a bit like a gray, this looks like a bit like a gray ET. Since then, I've sort of realized that it looks more like a Zeta Reticulum, which is like the good grays. There's the good grays and the bad grays, supposedly. a lot of this is conjecture, but it had more angular features. And basically, anyway, I was looking at it, and it was looking at me. This has been my only direct contact. There's been no downloads and none of that stuff. Just me and it, just looking at each other, and for a while, and it was very calm. It wasn't aggressive at all. The way I would express it would be that it had quiet power. I could tell that it was very powerful, but it was completely non-aggressive. So basically, I was looking at this being from behind that was in my. It wasn't like an image in my head. It wasn't like a thought. It wasn't a visualization. It was really there. It was something that I couldn't prevent. I couldn't make it go away or anything. It was just there. And as I was saying, it had quiet power. It had no threat. And we were looking at each other for a while. And then I started to think these strange thoughts that I don't know why I was thinking them. But I started to think, what if I was you and you were me? And I started to think this. And as soon as I started to think this, I started to feel a presence in my mind, another entity in my mind, entering my mind. I don't have any mental issues whatsoever. I have no mental problems. So this was the very first time I'd felt some other presence inside my head. And so immediately in response to that, I opened my eyes and went, probably cursed and shouted and went, "Oh my God!" And I opened my eyes, and like obviously it wasn't there anymore. And I waited a few minutes, and then I realized that maybe this was it trying to communicate with me, and the only way that it could communicate with me was by coming inside my mind, was by entering my mind, and that I had barred it from entering. So I suppose what I'm just saying to people is, if you get an opportunity like this, don't throw it away, because I've been trying. This happened a year ago. I've been trying since to try to initiate this meeting again, but it hasn't worked since.
Oh, okay. Well, the good thing is, you know, that it worked once, and your awareness of your fear and all that, that's a learning experience. And that's why in the community we're sharing these stories, because you're not alone. The fear factor, to one degree or another, affects many people. So thank you for bringing that up, because it's a common thing we all need to look at, and it causes some introspection. But, you know, kudos to you, because you recognize that you had backed off, but now you still sound like you want to go forward and have that experience again. And so it will happen in its time. We're going to move on then.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Can you hear me?
My name is Snir. I'm from Israel, and thank you for having me here on this webinar.
I'm
very excited. I've been watching the last webinar. I was very impressed with Rob's story of the lizard-like person. He was very proud of his pool. I was very fascinated by this story. And it's great to hear this story from all over the world. And I think that one of the great things about C5 is that it's not only getting us together with the ETs, it's getting us as people together all around the world. And I'm pretty new to all this. I'm less than a year in this movement, so to speak. And I started the Israel C5 Facebook page and Facebook group and WhatsApp. We have also a WhatsApp group, and we have some sprouts of working groups. Although we have some experienced working groups in the south of the country, which they had some significant contact, and they are now. The leader of this group, Satyam, is now in Egypt. She was making a trip with some other people. There were 6 people in this group. They were doing some meditation in the pyramids, and they had some C5, and they had some contact. They have also a picture of an orb UFO and over the pyramids, which is a beautiful experience, I think. And well, my personal experience was well, the first time I actually saw something, an unexplained aerial phenomena, as you call it, was last month when we were doing the C5 retreat in the desert here in Israel, in the south, near the Star Observatory in Mitzpe Ramon, in the south of the country. And we were a small group, and we saw some lights in the sky. They were blinking at us, and we saw them moving across the sky. And it was really great atmosphere. We were singing and playing guitar, and we felt like they were joining us in this celebration. And this was very, very great and thrilling for us. And well, since then we didn't have a lot of opportunities to meet, but we are now in holidays times. But hoping that we will continue this work and spread the word across the country. We are also working on translating some materials, reading materials to Hebrew, so people can read it, because most of the material is in English, and a lot of people have some difficulty reading all the vast materials there are. So we are also working on that. And we're hoping more people will join.
You know, I want to thank you so much, you and Satyam, and all of your combined groups and the offshoots of the other groups that you'll be building. What I want to let people here know is that a year or two ago, we had no ET contact groups in Israel until Satyam came along, and then Snir came along, and I introduced them to each other. And I was happy to watch their groups physically being able to join together and get to know each other and combine. So this is what's really cool, is being at the ground floor and seeing individuals like you have done, just stepping up. All it takes is just contacting somebody else, making a commitment to go out. You have some contact, you get excited, you tell more people, and the thing just starts growing. And so I see something wonderful coming, hopefully in the Middle East, larger, but beginning with you all and the work that you're doing to translate this. We need translators. A lot of us have trouble with our own English, much less making ourselves understood in other languages. So relying on the work that you're doing to translate and present it in a way that you know in your society is the best way to present it, not how I think it is or someone else. You know your culture the best. And that's why it's exciting what you're doing, by just taking the reins of this and running with it and growing it. So again, thank you very much.
No, I want to thank you, Costa, because without you, I wouldn't have met Satyam, and this whole group wouldn't have grown so much. And this is, I want to thank everybody that are joining here today, because if you join and you share your stories and you're not afraid to expose yourself, as all of you do, this gives inspiration to other people to do the same. And that's what I'm always telling my people in the group, to share, to tell their stories, to do the activity even alone, and start their own small groups and share their experiences to give inspirations to others, and that's how we'll grow eventually. So thank you again.
Yes, thank you very much, and that's very well put. Isn't it great to be able to see all these faces? I don't know about all of you, but many of you don't know each other, but I've had the opportunity and the pleasure to get to know some of you, or many of you, and just to see your presence here helps me understand this is a community. You know, you're not just names on an email or a profile on Facebook. We're all living, breathing people who are taking this contact very seriously. And the fact that we can show up here and be together is a real inspiring and power building thing for all of us. What I do want to say is that, well, a couple things that there's research that some of you have heard me talk about, that 1.3 billion people across the planet, adults, support the fact that what we're doing, because they believe that these star civilizations do exist as civilizations and that we should be communicating with them. So in theory, what we're doing in our small groups and circles right now really is acceptable to 1.3 billion humans. That still leaves a whole bunch of others that are in some other states of mind about this, but I had no idea until I saw this research. There are that many of us. So when you talk about speaking up and out, yes, it's a brave thing to have to do in your circles, sometimes to your partners, to your friends, but you will find that there are more people who believe than what you thought to begin with, and that's how we're growing the movement. So I just wanted to throw that out. 1.3 billion, you know, we have a lot of neighbors. And the next thing I wanted to mention is we do have retreats at ET Let's Talk three times a year, coming up in Mount Shasta, in Bloomington, Indiana, and in Joshua Tree, the southern part of California. So I encourage people who are near these areas to come to etletstalk.com/retreats and register, get some detailed information. They're very affordable, and they're wonderful times for us to get together face to face. As Hollis
And great contact.
Great
so
contact.
Much fun. So much fun.
On the ground and in the sky.
Totally.
Yeah, and Hollis does teaching there of psychic skills for people to be able to open up in their own special way. Or you can tell what you do.
Because that's a large part of the contact. It's not, you know, things showing up full blown in front of your face. It's the internal contact that the Irish CE5 person had, or you know, beings that you can feel with your hands in the field, but you can't actually see. That happens a lot, actually.
Yeah.
So telepathic messages, whatever.
We say it's not always about the lights in the sky, which are amazing. I love it every time, but also about the love on the ground and them showing up and being able to be perceived. So with Hollis teaching how to open up your own special psychic senses, because everyone has them, but not the same ones and not to the same degree as others, but her instruction there lets people hone in on what's going to work best for them.
And also my guides taught me a shortcut to getting a coherent field for the group. And I teach that too. So that's fun. Yeah.
So I welcome people to come to the retreats. You make a lot of friends and it's really group bonding. We wish we could do them internationally. It's just not possible right now, but we do have international people visiting us. And so we get to meet some of you. And this is the other way we get to meet you. So this is even better. Let me move on then. And okay, go ahead. You're on.
Oh, thank you. Well, I want to share with you guys that I've had experience in the backyard. I sent you a link in Messenger so that you can do the YouTube poll of that and share with others. But in doing Qigong parting the clouds, I've witnessed many flare-ups, not realizing it was like cameras going off. I had not a clue what it was multiple times. And it was always like around the Cygnus constellation. There have been times where a one time, shooting star took off across the sky and it returned from that direction. To me, that's an indication they're saying, hello, David. There have been also a scenario where they actually came so low that they flew over the house, no wind, no sound. It was just like breathtaking. And it was just an object. You can't really focus on the full features of it. And so they've been making contact with me because we live close to a schoolyard, and I take the dogs for a walk and they do their normal poop on the lawn. And I look down to try and fish one out of my pocket, a plastic bag, and I look up. I'm no longer facing the poop area. I'm now in another portion of the schoolyard going, oh my gosh, I have been transported. So after the baptism of the CE5 retreat, I return home and I do hand over hand and I slowly coat the sky. Welcome to Earth, safe travels, enjoy what you can, but have fun for traveling all this distance. Well, I try and cover every little bit of space. Well, they would show up. They would appear, and then at other times, others would come down low. So I realized they're not moving, and I could make thoughts. I'm happy you're here. Hello. I trust you more than I do the government. I love this opportunity. I have also had another time where they were come so close that I finally said, I don't want to see anything happen to you guys. And it was not just a flare up, it was like a flickering. They didn't know how to respond as they took off. So what I do experience here is the factors that they'll show up at a misplaced star. And I go, wait a minute, we don't have anything that bright. And then upon saying hello and welcome and tossing a kiss their way, they dim their light and slowly move on. So it's just unbelievable.
Oh, I understand you.
They are our future.
Yeah, they are. If we allow that, if we allow them, they've told us that they're ready. They're waiting on us. So let me move right along now because I see other people who do want to talk.
Because this is going to spread everywhere.
Yes, it is.
And I love your teamwork.
Thank you, David. I hope we get to see you again soon.
Likewise.
Okay.
Likewise.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Mage? Or can I?
Okay, so I'm coming in good, right?
We're fine. We can hear you.
Lovely. Okay. Right. So one of my friends that I invited in here who was listening in, Apex, they had their first contact recently, actually within the past couple of days. And they met two beings, and it very much amused me because this is their first time in contact or meditation or anything remotely similar to this, and it just happened so easy. And I'm like, that's the power of belief. You just, if it's easy to do in your head, then it's easy to do in real life. And that's all I really wanted to add.
Oh, okay. Another, what I would call another data point, a person who has had contact, has tried it. I noticed that sometimes people are successful the very first time, because I hear from a lot of new people that come in the community that, start doing this. Some are successful right away. Some keep trying and trying, and you never know why. You never know what to tell people. Why is it that this one succeeds right away and this one doesn't? I'm certainly not wise enough to know all the parameters for that. But I'm glad in your case, Mage, that your friend, and that would be Apex here, that you were able to connect, it sounds like, pretty quickly. So thanks for sharing that on Apex's behalf. Okay. Debs.
Yeah, just very quickly, because it kind of goes along with what Mage was saying, which is funny because I raised my hand before she did. That's really weird. Is that my husband doesn't practice with me, but he's very supportive, and he seems to get everything by osmosis, which really pisses me off sometimes. But anyway, but it's a good thing.
He also plays guitar better than you do. I'm sorry.
Yes, no, he does. But we're very close, and so we've been going through some very, very high stressful experiences for many, many months without stop. And we're real tired most of the time, but we support each other a lot. So just 2 nights ago, we kind of hit the wall, if you will, in these experiences, outside experiences with family responsibilities. And we were just dead tired, and it was time to go to bed, but we always have to take our dogs to the bathroom, like, I can't remember his name, but the other person was. And it was very dark out, but we finally had a starry sky. And David was in the house, but I was outside waiting for the dogs. And I just looked up at the sky and just, you know, telepathically said, I love all of you. I'm sorry I haven't spent a lot of time, you know, interacting. If you have anything to offer or share, that would be lovely. And immediately, and I always have my phone with my star apps on it with me when I go out. Immediately, in a place where there was no star on the star map, there was this huge, what looked like a bright star in the northern sky, coming up right between a bunch of trees. And it wasn't just bright, but it was twirling like this. And the reason why I knew it was twirling was because it was red and white twirling like this. And I thought, oh, well, thank you. I just say thank you now. I don't even say, is that real? And I was just staring at it for a while. And I guess I had been out there for too long. So Dave got concerned. He came outside and he said, what are you doing? And he noticed I was looking up and he said, what is that? And I said, you see it too? And he said, yeah, what star is that? And I held up the star map and it showed there was nothing there. And he said, oh. And so we both stood there and I finally just said, thank you. And immediately it felt like a flash, but it wasn't. Everything switched from positive to negative. If you've ever looked at an old film, you know, the negative of a film, you see that negative contrast. All the trees, instead of being blackish against a black sky, were bright whitish blue. And the sky was very light, and that thing was in the middle twirling around. And it was like the negative imprint was just coming into our eyes, like a big bright flat, like the old-fashioned flash bulb cameras, but it was the whole universe doing it. And it lasted for a little bit, and then it was over, and then the thing was gone. And I said out loud, thank you, and I love you. And I turned to him, and he said, what just happened? And I said, I think we just got an energy download. And he said, I think we did, because I feel just great. And we hugged each other, got the dogs, went back inside, and had a good night's sleep for once. So I don't know what it was, but it's just these weird little things. If you just don't try to judge it, and you don't try to make a big to-do of it when you have somebody who's not used to it with you, it seems to be, for him, it was just like, oh yeah, that was pretty cool. You know, so just another experience.
Yeah, just another universe downloads to you. Yeah, you know.
And yeah. Stay calm and stay curious.
Exactly, and grateful.
Yes.
I think and grateful. So.
Yep.
Thank you, Debs.
Thank you for letting me share.
And especially, I value stories where people, like in your case and what you were just talking about, Mage, and maybe this is true for the rest of you, you have brought along or been with someone inadvertently who's not deep into this the way you are. Maybe they're so open-minded and they're a partner, they're a cousin, they're a coworker, whatever, but they've just experienced with you. And Mage, what you and Debs just talked about was you, like you said, you didn't make an over-the-top big deal about it. You just kind of folded it into who you are and your experience. And that is a real gift to the person who's experiencing that for the first time, because they're going through something you went through when it happened to you the first time. Does everyone remember their first time? I do. And many of you do. And having someone else there who can be there just to experience it is a real gift. So you guys did really well. You know, you didn't set out to do that, but you did really well. Okay, I see Thomas. Yay, Thomas. Let me unmute you here. Tell everyone where you're joining in from.
I'm joining in from Denmark, and I'm sorry I have my wife and friend talking in the background. First, sorry for the share. I thought I was sharing with our Irish friend. I just want to say hello to everybody. Costa, you know me, you know me well. This is, I think, our 6th year doing this, 5th year since we met you, and I just want to say to everybody, well, it's all true. These things happen, and the way we experience is in very various ways, but it's true. And I think the main part is to how can you incorporate this into your life. We are not doing that much disclosure work anymore, because why should we? The ball is already rolling, and look at all these people doing it. And so just keep doing it, keep sharing it, and try to do the work down here that's necessary as well.
Yeah.
That will also enhance the contact. So we used to have a lot of busy things. Now it's more like once in a while, are you there? We're here, we're doing the work. And it certainly changed my life. I used to be lost and sick, and now I'm back in school. And
Yes.
so, yeah.
Yeah. I want to say, give a shout out to Thomas. He's been, like he said, 5 or 6 years. He was even doing these kinds of chats visually long before I felt confident doing it, and joining in every month for the Global CE5 initiative, and having his audience and recording himself and his people who were, joining in with the larger community. So thank you for your steadfastness there, Thomas, all these years.
Yep.
Okay. Thumbs up from California. We're coming up on an hour, and I do want to keep it to an hour, but I see one more person here, and that's Mimi. I will try to give you the microphone here.
Hi, Costa. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Ah, Mimi, Michelle in London. About 20 minutes ago, I can't remember who was talking, but I had a flash. And it's a group of people that I've had contact with a number of times. And it's, I see the figures in space, and there's a central figure. It's like an arc. It's a central figure, and then there are people. It's like a panel. And they're all different races, and they seem to be wearing suits like the astronauts do, no headgear particularly, with emblems. And I think that it might be members of the Intergalactic Federation. And there's tall ones and smaller ones and kind of all different appearances. But I just wanted to share that because I had a very, very strong flash about 20 minutes ago. So I think they were just saying they just wanted to connect to the group.
Wow.
Cool.
That is cool.
So that was in real time. And it lasted for half a minute or so, and then they went away. But it brought me back to remembering that I've had this contact a number of times, and I'm not quite sure who they all are, but they all seem to be officials, not military in the sense that we have military, but the space fleet, if you like, the intergalactic fleets. And yeah, so they just flashed in. I saw them all again, and I just wanted to share that to let you know that they're making contact.
Well, thank you. We just had contact in real time here on our webinar. Kind of what happened with Debs and her Star Teachers during our recent webinar, where they came through in real time and addressed us. So it seems like we're one way or the other, through you, Mimi, Michelle, and Debs, and others who were actually on that call, we get our stellar company also joining in. I would love to see a little thumbnail pop up with one of them. joining in here with a little visual.
That'd be awesome.
That would be kind of awesome. But we're putting that out there. Maybe, maybe in time they can be seen that way. But otherwise, I'm glad that I saw all of you today, and I want to thank everyone for just showing up, for your participation. This is the most well-attended webinar so far. We're growing, and we want to grow a whole lot more. And let me thank everyone in advance for spreading this. I will be emailing out on Facebook and on the website and other social media, as well as through my email list, a link to this after our very able video editor and audio editor, Rob here, puts it together nicely and packages it together. So when that happens, you'll get a link. I appreciate you spreading that out. We want to inform the rest of the world. We are, in essence, right now, the choir, and we're preaching to ourselves, but you know what? We're kind of practicing, talking to ourselves and sharing. So let's...
People listen to a choir.
That's right. People, she reminds me, yeah. People do listen to a choir. And these webinars do get, I think the last time we got, or we're still getting almost 1,000 views from the most recent one just on the YouTube channel. And I'm not really promoting it even that hard. I'm no great multimedia marketing expert or social marketing expert, but we're just putting it out there, and let's keep the thoughts positive. We're the first wave of people doing this and getting to know our cosmic families. And I think that they are very happy that we're making these efforts. And they have told us actually that they're looking forward to us coming together in this way in more massive numbers. So I just want to let you all appreciate that what we are doing here right now is the start of something much bigger. And we're all participating. Everybody's got a role to play. So thanks for doing your part. I don't know if Hollis wants to add anything.
What he said.
What he said, yeah. Okay, so having said all that, I will bid you adieu. I wish you all a great and happy time of contact and all parts of your lives until the next time that we meet. So take care again, and thank you. I don't think you can have an up-close and personal experience without it changing you in some way. I believe this is really a spiritual experience. CE5 is using consciousness to make this connection with our star friends. That's a more cooperative, interactive experience where you as a human initiate the contact. And you use consciousness to do that. Consciousness is all pervasive in the universe. There's really one mind and one consciousness. Everything is connected to everything else at some level. Use your heart connection. Use your open mind. Have your own experience. Do you believe that extraterrestrial civilizations exist out there? Should we be communicating with them? Should we contact them? Yes. We're surrounded by scores and scores of civilizations. ETs are family. This story of what we're doing is the most profound in all of human history. What's it got to do with me? And you know my answer to that question? Everything. The best way to predict the future is to create it. In this cooperative way, we can have a new world. It's an incredible time to be alive. Someday a tipping point will come. That's the People's Disclosure Movement. Come join us. Are you ready to talk with our ET friends? If you are, then join the People's Disclosure Movement. This movement is the world's largest, most widespread, regular, and coordinated two-way communication between us humans and the star people. Join us at etletstalk.com. Membership is free.